Hello, welcome to our August garden calendar. I'm Lenny Rogers, and we're here today at one of our Master Gardener's house. And today we're going to look at several things that you can do in the garden for the month of August. We're going to talk about plants and flower. We're going to look at anything you might need to fertilize. We're going to talk about different things you might need to prune, any lawn work we need to do, and then we're finally going to visit one of our field-grown nurseries here in the county. I guess to start off with, in the month of August there are a lot of different plants in flower. As you can see several behind me, black-eyed Susan, dahlia, there's Crape Myrtle. This is one of its highlight months. The Crepe Myrtles are blooming everywhere. Rose of Sharon, hydrangeas, abelias, the canna lilies, butterfly weeds, sometimes coneflower, hostas, some of your day lilies, roses, a lot of summer annuals are in bloom, just a variety of things that are in bloom in the month of August. So do go out, enjoy them, make some beautiful bouquets, and enjoy the many things in flower in the month of August. Okay, here in the month of August, a lot of our garden produce is very mature, and we're picking a lot of things out of the garden. You know, squash, peppers, green beans, watermelons, cantaloupes, you name it. Our gardens are usually producing very well this time of year, if we've been watering them or have had ample rain. So just go out and enjoy the bounty of your gardens, and in the meantime be looking for pests. I'm looking right here on the squash. I see some squash bug eggs, so you have to if you have some pests, you may have to spray for squash bugs or Mexican bean beetle, or if your tomatoes have blight or something of that nature. But scout your garden. If you have problems, you may need to spray, or there are organic sprays. Sometimes you can hand pick pests or diseased leaves or something from a plant, so just try to manage that the best you can. Also, if you don't have a garden that's producing well, or you just don't, gardening is not your thing, come out and join us at the farmers market. It's held in the Masonic Lodge parking lot behind People's Drug Store every Thursday from 2 to 6. So come out. Every Thursday in August we'll be selling fresh produce, locally grown, so come join us there. As far as your gardens, also end of August you can start planting some of your fall crop vegetables. I mean, still you can get cucumbers, green beans, those things you could still get them in if you go ahead and plant them here in early August. But by the end of August you can be planting some of the cold season crops, such as cabbage, broccoli, cauliflower, some of your mustard or greens, kale, that type of thing, and some lettuce, radishes. So end of August, be good to go ahead and get that in the ground. It'd be good if you could maybe get a little shade on those things as we kind of wrap up the hotter month here. So, but end of August is the time to start planting some of your fall garden crops. Well, a lot of our vegetable plants that we grow in our garden have to have some form of trellis. Pole beans is a prime example. And here's an interesting trellis for a pole bean. It's kind of a pole bean arbor, but you can see the beans are doing quite well, and it's filled up this arbor quite well. Some of the other trellis behind me, you can see there's a vertical trellis in the back side of a raised bed back here that's been used for growing, I'm not sure, cucumbers, other pole beans, and they have just recently cleared that bed out as it's produced all it was going to for the year. So they'll probably be going with a fall vegetable garden in that bare spot there. Okay, as far as lawn care goes in the month of August, we're just really shooting for mowing height, keeping that mowing height 3.5 to 4 inches. Don't scalp it, so we just don't want to cause those unwanted weed seeds to germinate. Also, be thinking about things that you might be doing in September. You may be going ahead and getting, if you've got a lot of grub problems, Japanese beetles, they come from grubs that the white grubs underground, and they'll hatch out. So September is usually one of the best months to treat. So you may be getting a granular. Go ahead and stocking up and getting ready to treat your lawn in September for the white grub control. So, and also, still a little early yet to thinking about aerating and reseeding, but usually September is the best month for that. So you may be getting your supplies together and lining up your equipment, but I'd hold off to September before we start aerating and reseeding some areas, or maybe even establishing a new lawn in a new area. But get your stuff ready. September's just around the corner for that. One thing a lot of people don't think of, and that's fertilizing strawberries in the month of August. But it is recommended that you fertilize your strawberries in the month of August. A shot of fertilizer here really does help them in their growth. It's not a lot. It's just basically 10 ounces to a pound of 10-10-10 per 100 square feet of bed. So 10 ounces of 10-10-10 per 100 square feet of bed. So give your strawberries a little bit of boost, and that'll help them when their production next spring. Well, here we are again in the August garden calendar, and today we have a special guest. We have J.D. Sink, and we're here on his farm, Stoney Point Nursery and Farms, and J.D.'s going to tell us a little bit about what he grows and some different things about the farm.
Thank you, Lenny. I started the nursery part of this farm in 1998. Started planting my first plants, which actually were, and I know we're going to kind of highlight some crepe myrtles today, actually were crepe myrtles that I robbed from a nursery that I grew up from near Lexington, North Carolina. I say robbed. I'll kind of show you here shortly how we did actually take those plants from his fields. I am currently operating with about 125 acres in nursery production. Granted, it's not all completely planted with trees. Some of it's been dug over, and there's some larger trees on it. So, to say that I have truly 125 acres of solid plants would be a fib. But that's kind of where I'm running as far as trees. And in addition to trees, I've also got corn, soybeans, wheat, and then obviously grow hay I'm running about 100 mama cows and running about 100 to 150 stocker calves each year. So keeps me busy, although I will say the nursery kind of is the bread and butter, and probably if I was it would be the last of my farming operations to leave if I was to give something up. So it's been something that I've enjoyed. It has, although over the last few years with the economic issues, it's not necessarily been that profitable. It has been the more profitable of the parts of my farm. And crepe myrtles being one of my prime trees that I enjoy growing and selling and selling in pretty decent numbers. Lenny, this patch of trees here is actually a Miami crepe myrtle. It's got kind of a pinkish bloom to it. Initially, whenever we planted this block, there were 350 1-gallon plants. The actual tree itself ranged from 12 to 18 inches tall in that 1-gallon plant. We spaced them. Our rows are actually 10 foot apart, and then we've got each tree spaced in there at about 5 to 6 foot apart. It's not an exact science, but we try to, as we're going down through there on the tree planter, to get them pretty well equally spaced. As we get orders, this past spring we actually had orders for some 6 to 8 foot trees, and obviously we came into this patch and dug them. This was one of the holes left over from the spot that that we actually dug it. What we try to do once we get that, this is not a patented variety, which means that, once I bought it from a nursery, I do have the right to take the plant cutting and root it myself, which is what I like to do because I am saving money from having to buy that 1-gallon plant. Traditionally, I've actually brought a shovel out here today, but traditionally what we try to do, this was dug with a 24-inch root ball, I'll come out here with my larger spade, either my 30 or my 36-inch spade, in the spring of the year, around the end of March, beginning of April, and take and dig a 36-inch hole around this 24-inch hole, lift the tree up. I won't move far. I'll maybe move 6 or 8 inches in one direction, and then while the spade's up in the air, I'll actually lift the blades, let them drop down on the ground, and then I'll have several employees that'll be here taking rooted cuttings, and I'll actually dig one up and kind of show you how that looks and how we begin with them. Now they'll obviously grow a little bit larger because they'll continue to grow until the first frost comes, but that's pretty much what it will look like. We'll take it. That one will actually fit pretty good in that 1 gallon pot. I may prune that just a little bit, and then as we're sticking them in the 1 gallon pot, this will all be dead foliage because the frost in the winter has already occurred. We'll stick it right in the pot, basically like that, and put a little bit of fertilizer and let it roll. Keep the water to it.
And so how long do you keep it in a container like that?
I can if I get it in there at the 1st of April, keep the water to it and fertilizer to it, I can have it ready to plant by October, November. So, and that's kind of my goal is to be able to do that in a year.
So you do mostly fall planting when you set these back out?
I try to. Main reason being with a Crepe Myrtle, the roots do not like to freeze, and I have left them on top of the ground in the wintertime and ended up having to go back and replace a lot of them because the roots froze out. If you can keep the roots from freezing, yes, they are a warm variety of plant, and the top's going to freeze out. In fact, if we'd had this video camera here whenever we had that late freeze in April of last year, these were all toast. They'd already leafed out. I mean, they were brown leaves all over them, and they shed those leaves and they put back out. But with a smaller cane plant, it's going to freeze out, and it's not going to come back. It's not going to be able to handle that below 28-degree freezing temperature. Lenny, one of the most important things that to a landscape architect, a city arborist, and even to me, as far as personal preference, is the right number of canes to have on a Crepe Myrtle. There are markets set up to where you can sell singles. Most of the time, you don't want just that single liter Crepe Myrtle. Most of the time, they're wanting the 3s, the 5s, maybe even 7s. I got kind of my hired hands, as well as myself, whenever we come through, that's what we're kind of shooting for, is to have a 3. And you mentioned the 4 a minute ago. A lot of the landscape architects don't necessarily want a 4, but a 3, a 4, or a 5 cane tree. One of the things I'm going to kind of shoot at and having you look at right here, this plant over here to my left, camera's right, has got 4 canes on it. It could very easily, by taking this 3rd one over here, this 4th one out over here, it could be made into a 3 cane tree, and end up, by the end of this season, this will probably be a 6 to 8 foot finished Crepe Myrtle, to where if I had the marking, somebody wanting it, I could sell it as that. On my right, I have an employee error. This is one of the things that they're told not to do, is to ever leave a double stem Crepe Myrtle. I have absolutely no market for it. I don't personally like the looks of it, nor do the landscape architects or anybody in the larger cities. The arborists like. So their instructions are, they come to a double stem, make it a single. Make it a single and then cut the top back so that it can fill back out and grow into a relatively decent tree. I am going to attempt right now with a small set of pruners to make a cut here and make this a single and see what we can do with it to kind of doctor it up and make it a marketable plant. This is actually the bigger cane, but I'm gonna actually switch and choose this one as the one that I'm gonna keep. those suckers off. We've already been through and cut suckers pretty much in the entire field. Then I'm gonna go up here to the top because you can see it's trying to lean and go top heavy on us. One of the things that the folks would tell you with crepe myrtles, if you're trying to get them to caliper up as they're blooming, actually come through and either peel the blooms back, which would be too time consuming, or go ahead and just cut the blooms off and get them to where they'll stand back up, because that adds a lot of top weight to that plant. Right now, I'm not necessarily making my final cut. I'm just trying to get some of this weight off of it and get it to where I can actually see what I'm dealing with and try to end up with a decent plant. I got a branch here that's going back into the center that, you know, eventually I do want one to go back into the center, but the way that one was growing, I didn't particularly like it. Those are kind of crossing one another. Don't really want that. I'd prefer it to not cross. I'm gonna go ahead and take a little more top weight out of the tree. Now, it's still forked, which isn't necessarily what I want. However, I don't know that I can make a single cane coming on up without a stake. So I'm gonna leave it at this point. I'll probably come back through and cut this cane here back out, put a stake and let it go on from there. But that's kind of the quick, short course on crepe myrtles and the multi-canes versus the singles. There is a large market for single canes if you can get them all looking uniform. I have difficulty keeping them all looking uniform, so occasionally we'll get a 2-stem crepe myrtle and we'll make it into a single so that we've got some singles out here. So if somebody's desiring 1 or 2 or 3, we can probably fill that order. Other than that, we'll just either try to find them somewhere else for them or tell them they'll have to go somewhere else.
Well, JD, everything about the nursery's not all about making money, is it? So I don't think you sold too many of these this year. Can you tell me what happened?
Yeah, that plant there is not yet marketable. In April, late April, early May, I don't remember the exact date, but we had a huge freeze here in Alexander County. A lot of my plants that I had on top of the hill, which was good site selection for growing crepe myrtles, did okay. It actually would freeze their leaves back, but this particular variety here is a lipan crepe myrtle. It's got a bloom much like the Muskogee. It's just a lower, smaller growing plant than what a Muskogee is. We're going to look in just a minute at a Natchez, which are right over here beside of us, that is a little bit more cold hardy than what the lipan is. The lipan did not withstand that 28, maybe even as cold as 24 degrees. I don't know how cold it was, and it pretty much froze them completely back. I do have some buds breaking right here. It was just really a poor site selection in planting these plants in the bottom. Once I get this crop done, and then one other field that I've got crepe myrtles planted in the bottom, I will never do it again. It's a lesson learned the hard way. Still, you know, going to have a marketable plant, but it took some years of growth, and I don't know that this plant will ever make it back to marketable size before I have to, you know, reutilize this land, because, you know, that tree there, the one's right beside of it, which is, you know, kind of odd, but it's going to be marketable here in the next couple of years, whereas this one I'm looking at least 4 more years before it's sellable. Lenny, one of the, I guess, biggest selling points to a crepe myrtle is its flower color, and that's what people all know about crepe myrtle is its flower color. But, you know, you're going to have that showiness for maybe as long as 3 months in a year, most of the time 2 to 2.5. So you got to look at the whole grand picture of the thing. Some of the varieties do have a very showy bark, as you're seeing here, that'll give you something that is appealing even in the wintertime, that you know, is a very attractive plant and makes it really stand out from that aspect.
Well, this I guess this is Natchez, and this exfoliating bark, I mean, some people call it a cinnamon bark, I guess, but it's really beautiful. It's a beautiful color in the winter, so that's a huge added benefit with this tree. Usually, when do crepe myrtles bloom? Tell me that, because some people may be looking for it in early spring, and it's not going to happen there.
Early spring is not your crepe myrtle. You're going to need to go to some other varieties of trees. Most of the time, actually, I've seen them bloom as early as June the 1st. We have had graduations up at Alexander Central when the crepe myrtles were in full bloom. Most of the time, June 15th through the 30th, and then, your greatest showiest time is right about now. The end of July, 1st of August, and they'll show on through September. So, real good about that.
Well, tell us a little bit about your fertilization scheme here with the crepe myrtles, and how and when you start and when you stop fertilizing, and the effects of that there on the tree.
Like most nurserymen, I tried to read the textbook whenever I got into this business, and the thing the textbook says to do is to fertilize once in the late winter, early spring, and then come back and hit them again before June the 30th. There's really no art to the way that I actually put fertilizer out. Most of the time I just use a 17 fertilizer and run about a pound per plant, according to the variation or the size of the plant, I should say. But the one thing that I learned from trial and error back very early in the business of growing crepe myrtles, I do not fertilize my crepe myrtles past May the 15th. I will not touch them. Even if maybe things I get wrapped up in other stuff and they don't get but one fertilization, I will not fertilize them past May the 15th. I had frost damage in late fall, my very first year. As I was telling you earlier, I had some plants that in their first year grew 5 or 6 foot in height. I'm sitting there in love with it, saying, man, I'm really going to get rich off of these plants. And had an early frost that year and a real cold frost, and it froze them completely. 5 to 6 foot of growth froze completely back down to the ground. So at the end of that first year, granted I still had my roots, I was left with a nub in the ground to start over, all back fresh start. I made it work, but it took a couple years to regain that.
So it's true that late season growth stimulated by late fertilization will really get bit by frost.
Absolutely. Yeah. Definitely try to stand clear of that. And I've learned the hard way. My pocketbook felt it. So.
Okay, as we're here kind of wrapping up things with JD in the nursery here, a couple questions I want to ask him to share with you is just share some of the different varieties. We've been highlighting crepe myrtles today, but he sells a lot of other varieties of trees and shrubs, and I just want him to mention that to us, and also tell us about how he digs trees and what size he's shooting for, maybe with the crepe myrtles or some others.
As far as crepe myrtles go, I grow a red, a white, a pink, a purple, and a couple of different shades of each, and just try to leave it at that, so that I can hit everybody's color appeal and try to hit the size variety that they want. As far as crepe myrtles go, my number one sellers are normally 8 to 10 foot trees. Nanchus is real popular because that white will blend with pretty much any color. And then there's some other varieties of reds like Dynamites and Red Rockets that are a real pretty flower. I don't necessarily think they're the best growing crepe myrtle that there is, but because of that real showy flower, and maybe because Dynamite's a pretty cool name and Red Rocket's a pretty cool name, they tend to show up on several landscape architects' plans. As we say, and as I said, I'm a wholesale nursery, and therefore I'm kind of shooting for that type of hitting either landscape architects and going directly to the landscaper, or possibly to a re-wholesaler or to some retail garden center. As far as other varieties of trees that I grow about 5 different varieties of oaks, about 6 different varieties of maple, hollies, several different varieties of hollies, Leyland cypress, green giant arborvitaes, a couple other very, very closely resembling arborvitaes to the green giant, emerald arborvitaes. I guess as I'm speaking, I'm losing some thought process there as to what all I do grow, but I try to hit everything in both deciduous and evergreen trees and shrubs. so that if that landscaper, that wholesaler or retail garden center wants something, I've got it, so that I can accommodate most of their needs. As far as local retail garden centers that I actually sell to, Ted Ikers down off of Springs Road buys trees from me, and I buy some trees from him as well. But I know Hefner's right down the road from Ikers has got a lot of different varieties of the same trees that I grow, and Crepe Myrtles as well. There's some pretty good garden centers, and both those two that I've mentioned are very knowledgeable on their plants and can steer you in the right direction.
Share with us a little bit about how, if you get an order, how they're dug with a mechanical digger, or where they're stationed and how they're picked up. You deliver or they come pick up, how that all works.
As far as digging goes, everything that I got other than some boxwoods will be machine dug. It's a spade on the front of a Bobcat skid steer. Actually, most of mine have 3. There are some large ones that have 4 spades, and then there's some that go up to 18 foot in diameter that have multiple spades. But basically, the machine comes up, you set it down, get the tree centered up in between the 3 spades, and then knock the spades down in the ground, lift the tree up with it, and it's pretty much in its original state, even though some roots have been root pruned. Set it in a wire basket with burlap, pin it up, and tie the heads up, and they're ready for shipping. Most of my trees go out either in larger gooseneck orders or by road tractor. You're talking about a lot of weight. With an 8 to 10 foot Crepe Myrtle, you're looking at a 30-inch root ball. That tree itself, the tree and the root ball, depending on some water weight, will weigh somewhere between 500 and 700 pounds. So it's not something that just the typical homeowner is going to be able to handle. They're going to have some sort of machine that's going to be able to lift it and unload it and then get it there into the hole. I have got a couple landscapers that do specialty projects that, they've got enough men there to where they do manhandle trees, or have what's called a ball cart. It's like a large hand truck that they manhandle them around, but it's still back-breaking labor to manhandle that tree around.
Okay. Well, I will say that, the nursery, shrubs, greenhouse business is one area of agriculture that is still somewhat slightly growing in our county. Some, due to the economic situation, a lot of things are kind of at a standstill, but there is still some growth in that. And so I just want to thank JD for sharing with us today and letting us come on his nursery and just sharing all about his business. Thank you, JD.
Thank you, Lynn.
Well, I hope you've enjoyed the August garden calendar, and I hope you picked up some good tips for gardening around your home, whether it's in the landscape with your perennial flowers or shrubs, or some lawn tips, or maybe even some tips working in your gardens. So I hope you picked up something that's useful in the garden for the month of August. I also hope you've enjoyed the visit with JD Sink with Stoney Point Farms and Nursery, and looking at his field-grown nursery in operation there. So I hope you've enjoyed that as well this month of August. And I do want to say the location we're at now is the Richard and Regina Brunn's house, and Regina is a past Master Gardener graduate, so she's been a great asset to us. And if you are interested in the Master Gardener program, maybe you can have a garden such as this that Regina has around her home. She's done a beautiful job. So if you're interested in the Master Gardener program, we do that each spring. Sign up is usually January, February, but we can put your name on a list if you want to contact us now. It's 40 hours of in-depth training on propagation, diseases, insects, pruning, vegetable gardening, perennials, a variety of things related to gardens. So if you're interested in that, give us a call, and you can contact us for that reason, or for if you've got any other questions related to gardening, at our North Carolina Cooperative Extension Office. We're located beside the health department and right behind First Baptist Church. And our physical address is 376 First Avenue Southwest. Give us a call at 632-4451, or look us up on the web, www.alexanderextension.com.